Hello, hello, Plum here from mtgchaintag.com, and yet again, it's time for another Brewers review for Historic. This time, for the upcoming Hobbit set that we'll be releasing in just a couple weeks. I feel like we just got done with Marvel Superheroes, but we already got another set coming out. This time around, it is a bit smaller, which I think is a good thing. But just as a reminder, this is what I call a Brewers review. So these are just going to be cards that I think are fun, interesting. I'm excited to build around and play with once the set releases, and we're coming at this from a historic perspective. Obviously, there's going to be cards good in Modern or Pioneer, and we might talk about that here or there, but mainly I'm focusing on MTG Arena-related formats and specifically Historic in general, because that's what I play the most. This is not sort of a limited review. This is not sort of a spiked look at things like that. We're just going to be talking about cards, what I want to do with them, where I think they're cool, why I think they're fun, and maybe do some theory crafting about what sort of decks they'll fit in as we go. So let's hop right into it. This is a smaller set, so not as many cards to talk about this time. Power level seems a little bit lower, but still some fun inclusions. So before we sort of go card by card, I do want to mention some sort of outliers in general, or sort of overarching themes, is that we have some fun new tribal support for things that haven't really gotten a lot of tribal support recently, specifically elves, dwarves, halflings, wolves, goblins, what else is in there? Dragons, and there's some fun random things like bears and whatever in there too. So although there's a lot of these cards, some of them are really interesting, we're not going to talk about every single one. Of course, they're pretty cool. We'll probably play some of them on stream, but I really wanted to just hit some of the standout things that piqued my interest right off the bat. So keep that in mind. And then, of course, kind of like we talked about for Marvel Superheroes, there's a lot of legendary cards, especially in these Universes Beyond sets, since we have sort of multiple iterations of legendaries. You'll see different Bilbo cards. You'll see different Smog cards and things like that. So I just tagged on here, you know, Cavern of Souls for tribal. Lots of tribal cards in this set, lots of tribal support. I'm not going to mention every single one, but of course, there's some new toys for different tribes that you'll see on screen. And then also, because it's full of legendaries, Mox Amber is always relevant and stuff like that. So let's hop into our first card. We'll go color order here. So first thing we have is Belladonna Took. This is 2 mana for a 2/2 legendary creature, halfling citizen. Whenever a token you control enters, you gain 1 life. It's the first time it triggers. If it's the second time you draw a card, if it's the third time, you put a counter on each creature you control. A long time ago, we played a deck called 4-color rectangles, and you can see a sort of version of it on your screen right here. And it was kind of based around like Academy Manufactor and the rectangle theory in general, where, if you're not familiar, if you can generate more rectangles than your opponent, cards on the field, cards in hand, whatever, you generally have a better chance of winning the game. At least that's how it's supposed to go. So the idea was to use cards like, you know, Lonus Cryptozoologist, which makes clue tokens when a creature enters, Chatterfang, which makes additional tokens when a token enters. Academy Manufacturer turns all your tokens into 3 tokens. And you just generate all these sort of game objects, which happens, especially Academy Manufacturer, which makes a clue, treasure, and food whenever you make one of those. It makes all 3 instead, which will sort of immediately trigger Belladonna Took all 3 abilities in one go, which is pretty sweet. Of course, life gain's always good, so I think in an earlier version, we played like Guide of Souls, Ocelot Pride, we had a Johnny in there before it got banned, but I'm looking forward to revisiting that, especially with Academy Manufactor. Now that deck's sort of more mid-rangey. We're just trying to commit a lot of stuff to the board and just generate a lot of value as we go. But there are some other interesting cards I just wanted to quickly mention. One being Wish Good Luck, which again makes 3 tokens, a food, a treasure, and a colorless vehicle for just 2 mana. So you could do like some Naya Shell. There's also Balin, which is like a 3 mana legendary rabbit that lets you manipulate tokens for mana or card draw, which is pretty sweet. And then if you are just like thinking more of a straight token shell, we have like the Last Ronin's technique, which you can sneak and it gives you 3/1/1 Ninja Turtles. We have Lingering Souls, we have Battle Screech and stuff like that to just generate a lot of flying creatures at the same time, which is good because, you know, this keeps your hand gassed up, but it also pumps your whole team every single turn if you can trigger it. So, again, also turns on Mox Amber along with a lot of the other stuff we played in the Rectangle deck, so it might be a good inclusion. But I think this card has a lot of potential if you can get it up and running rather quickly. Next up is Bilbo's Gambit. 2 mana instant. You can gift a treasure. You get to return a spell to its owner's hand. If you gifted a player a treasure, players can't cast spells this turn. I think this is pretty good. I don't want to say it's broken. I feel like a lot of people are saying it's basically a time walk, which in a sense it is. It's probably most similar to Reprieve, where it bounces a spell, but instead of drawing a card, you get a silence effect. I don't think Bilbo's Gambit is necessarily going to replace any of the things you see on screen, but I think it'd be played alongside some of these other effects. We have Revel in Silence, Silence, and Orm's Chant, and this is basically our copies, up to 16 copies of a similar effect in the same deck, plus Reprieve, which is a lot. Obviously, you have to have something to take advantage. We don't have like Isochron Scepter or anything like that in Historic, but some sort of weird mid-rangey shell. Obviously, like Blue-White High Noon can take advantage of it if they needed to. I don't think necessarily wants it because they're already, preventing extra spells being casted anyways, but it's a nice card to have. And then along with that, we've tried like a 16 silence deck or a 12 silence deck in the past with like Union of the Third Path, the One Ring, Approach of the Second Sun, that kind of stuff. So I think this card kind of slots in there. Unfortunately, it doesn't prevent attacking, but if you can get a silence off early and just sort of chain them together as you advance your own board state through some other means, I think this could be pretty good and pretty annoying in the right kind of shell. Next up, Healy the Resourceful. 2 mana 1/2, legendary creature Dwarf Scout. It has a new ability. If you control 3 or more artifacts, legendaries, and or sagas, you have Enduring Story for the rest of the game. So kind of like a City's Blessing effect. Once you have it, it sticks around. As long as you have Enduring Story, you can pay 0 rather than pay the equip cost of the first equip ability you activate each turn. And whenever another dwarf or equipment you control enters, you draw a card. Only triggers once each turn. So they put some safety valves on it. It's very similar to Pure Steel Paladin, which is sees play in Modern. The same idea, lets you equip things for 0 as long as you have like Metalcrafts. Here, it's only 1 thing per turn, so it's a little different. But these cards on the bottom of the screen here feel like it's going to be pretty easy to enable stuff in Hammer Time or equipment heavy shells, Stoneforge Mystic, that sort of thing, right? It's legendary, so we can play Mox Amber. We have artifact lands, which trigger the storied ability. Leyline Axe can be played on turn 0. So, like, literally, you can do such silly things where, like, you can play, turn 1 Kemba Outfitter off an Ancient End, Leyline Axe, Mox Amber, right? And then turn 2 Tilly the Resourceful, immediately get storied, Enduring Story for the rest of the game, and then play your Colossus Hammer and equip it for free or 1 mana. I've also seen some people, I'm just mentioning Quicksilver here too, because I've seen some people playing this in some interesting Hammer Time shells because it enables turn 1 Mox Amber as well, and turn 2 like Hammer and Swing. So there might be some cool red-white equipment deck, or maybe I've even seen blue-white equipment with the card I can't think of from whatever. There's a blue card that lets you equip something for free that I can't remember off the top of my head, but we might see a new take on Hammer Time, at least in Historic, with this upgrade. So I think this is a sweet card. Next up, this is a simple common. It's just a 1/1 Human Scout, but when it dies, Recruit. Another new ability. So Recruit is you draw and discard. If you discarded a non-land, you get a 1/1 White Human Soldier token. It does have a Death Trigger. If it was ETB, I think this card would be nuts, but that's a lot of value for a 1-drop, right? You can potentially make a 1/1 body when it dies, so it replaces itself, plus you get to dig 1 card deeper, which feels crazy. If you sacrifice it, you get to make a 1/1, draw 3, discard 1, which is gross. You can obviously play it in like a simple sacrifice shot with like Blood Gas and just discard that, play a land drop, you get a 1/1 and a 2/1, blah, blah, blah. Also a super strong engine with Abiding Grace, because you get to return it every single turn. Same idea, helps you turn through your deck, blocks, sack to like Priest of Forgotten Gods and that sort of stuff. So I don't necessarily think there's a straight like black-white sack list running around at the moment. They usually lean towards like Mardu or Rakdos, or obviously like the top sacrifice deck is Yawgmoth right now. But this is just a fun little card that I think could come in handy, or at least be some good glue for other shells that are looking for something that can churn out value. I'm going to keep saying churn throughout the game. And then next up, we have Mountain's Chain Return, a 3-mana saga. You recruit on Chapter 1. Chapter 2, you return target creature card with mana value 3 or less from the graveyard to the battlefield. And then Chapter 3, you get to put a counter on something. So these are not like crazy chapter abilities, but for 3 mana, that's a lot. And more importantly is it's a single card enabler for Abhorrent Oculus, kind of like Ralzarek, the guest professor, was in Strixhaven, or guest speaker. So like recruit, you can draw and discard. You discard the Oculus. The second one, you get to return a creature card, returns the Oculus to the field, and then you can put a counter on it, making a 6/6 flyer. Seems pretty cool. We already have like Helping Hand. We have Faithless Mending. So there could be some like sweet blue-white Oculus shell or Esper, or Jeskai if you want to play Faithless Looting and stuff too. You don't have to necessarily focus on discarding that, but that could be kind of sweet. Especially with Practice Offense kind of running around, Hardened Academic is running around. I could see some fun like Jeskai Oculus shell coming to fruition there. But on top of that, I mean, again, it's not a crazy card, but it does have a fun little interaction with Garnet, Prince of Alexandria, Final Fantasy, 2-mana 2/2, lifelink. When it attacks, you remove a lore counter from each of any number of sagas you control, and then you put a counter on Garnet for each lore counter. So, you can like continually remove a counter from Mountain's Chain Return once it's on a chapter you like. So if you like do it right away, you can, you know, keep recruiting every single turn. Or if you throw take a counter at chapter 2 or whatever, then you can keep reanimating things over and over. We can't keep putting counters on it. So, but you can keep using the first 2 abilities. And we've tried a Naya Saga build with like Fabled Mirror Breaker and some of the other stuff, but Garnet plus this would give you a lot of grind potential, and nothing crazy, but think it's worth taking a crack at. Next up is Bilbo, Thief in the Night, 2-mana 2/2 legendary halfling creature. Spells you cast from anywhere other than your hand cost 1 less to cast. Whenever it attacks, you may cast an artifact, instant, or sorcery from your graveyard. If an instant or sorcery spell is cast this way, it's exiled. So you get a discount on stuff everywhere besides your hand, plus you kind of have this weird like slow Snapcaster that also hits artifacts. Yes, you have to swing, so I guess this is more akin to the what's it called in Wizards that I can't remember again off the top of my head. You swing, it's a 1/3, blah blah blah, and it casts something for free. It's kind of annoying you have to get the attack trigger, but if you can, I think it can Dreadhorde Arcanist, different thing. I think you can get some big power out of this. It's kind of cool with like Doc Arlock, because that also reduces stuff that you cast from your graveyard exile. So these two together are both legendaries, so you can play Mox Amber. Plus it would reduce something by 3 if you needed to. I don't know what that is, but they're both 2 mana, and that's kind of hot. Kellan the Kid's kind of interesting too. 3/3 flying lifelink. Whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, you cast a permanent spell with equal or lesser mana value from your hand without paying its mana cost. We do have something like Esper Origins, which puts itself in the graveyard, and then you can flash it back. So with Bilbo, it only costs 3 mana, and then you also get to like get that sort of extra card from your hand onto the field, which is kind of interesting. Ramps you with lands, it's in the same colors, so maybe something there. Might be kind of slow. They are both rogues, which is relevant. And then finally, it's in the same colors as Emery. It buys back artifacts, it mills, Emery mills, so you can also put instants and sorceries and stuff in the grave, so might be something there too, but just a card to keep an eye on. Next up, we have Elven Raftsteerer. This is an elf pilot 3/2 with a landfall ability that either lets you tap a creature an opponent controls or untap a creature you control. So very similar to Retreat to Coralhelm, basically the same thing, but on a creature, which means you can Collected Company into it, which is hot. There is the classic combo between these two, but now we have it with Elven Raftsteerer and Knight of the Reliquary, which is you can sack a forest or plains, search your library for a land card, put it on the battlefield, shuffle your library. So you sack a lands, you go get a forest or plains, or I'm sorry, you go get anything, When it enters, you untap Knight of the Reliquary, you sack a land again, enters, untap Knight, and you can just basically put all the lands in your deck onto the battlefield. Now, we don't have, like, what's the card? Sajiri Step to give it protection from something at, like, the end of the loop, so you can swing with a giant Knight. But we do have some other simple stuff, like Sunken Citadel that could activate, like, a hidden passage kind of effect to make Knight unblockable. But we'll kind of see how that goes, because they do enter untapped. Along with that, Zimone and Dina kind of does some cool stuff. This is a 3-mana 3/4. Whenever you draw your second card, blah, blah, blah. But you can sack a creature, draw a card. You may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield tapped. If you control 8 or more lands, repeat this process. So if you sack a creature and put a land into play, then you can untap Zimone and do it again. Which kind of combos like White of the Reliquary, same idea. Sack a creature, search your library for a land card, put it on the battlefield tapped and shuffle. So you could sack Bloodghast, go get a land, put it on the field. Bloodghast comes back into play with the landfall trigger. You untap with Elven's untap trigger on the white, and then you sack Bloodghast again. And same idea, you can go get all the lands in your deck onto the field. So kind of neat. This one only works with lands in hand, so White of the Reliquary is probably just better. But then this can play some sort of tutor package in terms of lands, which aren't as strong in Historic, but you still have some utility like Kajuka Bog and stuff like that too. So might be a cool deck there, but we'll probably start with just Knight plus Elven and see where we can go from there. Lord of the Eagles is just a big dumb card. 9 mana, 8/8 legendary creature, costs X less to cast, where X is the total power of creatures you control with flying. It has flying, also has flash, which is sick. We played a Jeskai Flying Men deck not too long ago with Mantis Rider and Momo and all sorts of other fun stuff. These two seem pretty good. You can like warp a Quantum Riddler for 2 mana, and then this is 5, so this reduces the cost to just 4, which is kind of hot. If you're playing like Blink shenanigans, you know, you like turn 3 a Riddler, blink it, comes back, and then turn 4 play Lord of the Eagles. Does an 8/8 with no protection do anything for you? I don't know, but it's fun. Momo reduced the cost by 2 as well, so you could even go like turn 1 Momo, turn 2 Riddler, ephemerate it, and then turn 3 Lord of the Eagles and just have an 8/8 flyer, which is pretty hot. Is kind of akin to like Safara Skyblade, which is another big guy that you can cheat out in some sort of way, flying lifelink, and then other creatures have flying have indestructible. So I don't know if you want to play 2 giant top ends like that, but if there's ever a flyer deck, which we've tried to make flyers work, we'll probably take another crack with Lord of the Eagles. Not crazy about this card. Most Decrepit Old Bird. It's a 1 mana 1/1 flyer. It has an adventure, mill 4 cards, put an instant or sorcery card from one of them into your hand, and then it has threshold. It gets +1/+1 as long as you have 7 or more cards in your yard. So if you have a little bit of mill, it's basically a 1 mana 2/2 flyer that happens to get you an instant or sorcery. Pretty much Picklock Prankster, with some pluses and some minuses, some pros and cons. It has a tiny bit more of an aggressive body. However, Speak Secrets is sorcery and Free the Fae is instant. And it can get fairies, but that doesn't necessarily matter too much. Vigilance is pretty important. They both have flying, so I don't think there's a lot of decks that would play this over the other. But I think it's just a cool card to have. It kind of complements like Delver kind of well. And that's all I really have to say. It's just a nice little card to have. I don't know if it's powerful enough for Historic. It's a rare. It's kind of crazy, but it's there. Desolation Prowler. We'll talk about this card coming up in another slide too, but this is 2 mana 2/2, pay 2 life, gets +2/+2 till end of turn, only activated once. So it's basically a Putrid Leech in mono black. Love that. My immediate thought is we play it in Death Shadow. Players really well with Cecil. Powers up your Death Shadow. You can pay 2 life anytime, even on your opponent's turn, to power up a Stubborn Denial. And just, I mean, it's no Tarmogoyf, but a 2 mana 4/4 creature on attack is pretty decent as well. It is nice that it's a 2 mana that also enables Ferocious. Not that there's too many cards playable that care about Ferocious, but there are some stuff that, you know, cares about power 4 or greater and whatnot. But I think mainly this is just used as a little beater with some life loft synergies tacked on. So I think it's pretty easy to just slot into a Dimir Shadow build. Okay, hear me out on this one. Golem Riddlemaster is a 2-mana 3/1. You choose odd or even, and then whenever an opponent casts a spell with the mana value of the chosen quality, you choose one that hasn't been chosen. It either gets bigger, opponent loses 2 and you gain 2, you draw a card. I know it's not amazing, but it's a legendary creature, halfling horror, and I have a dream of playing horror tribal with Thing in the Ice, because Thing in the Ice bounces all non-horror creatures. So you can play like Silent Hull Creeper, which can then copy your flip Thing in the Ice, or copy Golem Riddlemaster and kind of reset and get a new one. This gets bigger when it deals combat damage, can't be blocked, so you draw a card, it becomes a copy. If you're playing Phyrexian Obliterator, you can do that, copy whatever. I kind of want to stay a little lower to the ground because we need instant sorceries, so you could play like Snapcaster Mage, and then when Thing in the Ice flips, you get to bounce the Mage back to your hand. Don't think it's going to be good, but it's definitely in the realm of the jank tank, so we'll probably try it out anyways, just because we can. But I like that we're slowly getting more cards for Horror Tribal. Okay, this goes along with our good friend Desolation Prowler, but we are getting some pretty decent wolf support. Head of the Hunt is just one of them. There's a couple more on this side, but this is a 4-mana 4/3 with Flash. If a creature an opponent controls would die, you exile it and you get a 2/2 green wolf token. So kind of similar to like Kalidas, Trader of Get, which is just kind of big 4-mana 4/4 that gives you 2/2 zombies or vampires or whatever. But we already have Nightpack Ambusher, which is another Flash wolf. These are pretty good blockers. This makes extra wolves, gives your other stuff a buff, so you can basically get like 8 power worth of cards if you block something and have both of these on the field. Plus you get another 3/3 with the pump at the end of turn, which is a lot of crazy stuff. We do have Immerwolf on Arena, and then we have Huntmaster the Fells on Arena. There's not a lot of playable wolves, but these are some of them if we're going wolf tribal. And then Nighthowl Pursuer is a 1-mana 1/1 with Menace, and then whenever it attacks, it becomes a 3/3 if your controller power 4 or greater. So Head of the Hunt triggers that. Desolation Prowler can trigger that because it can go for 4 power. And then we also have Chief Warg's Company, 3-mana 5/3 with Trample. This creature can't attack unless you control 2 or more other wolves, like Nighthowl Pursuer or other cheap stuff. And then at the beginning of your upkeep, you get a 2/2 green wolf creature token. So it's really cool to see them expand into black, so we start to get like Jund colors. Maybe we can, welcome people to the Junderdome and start playing Jund wolves with like some basic like Thoughtseize, Fatal Push, Abrupt Decay backup, because I think these sort of 2 cards, Ambusher and Chief Warg's Company, can kind of run away with the game on their own. Well, obviously this needs some extra stuff, but we have some decent cards on curve that play well with all these. So I would kill a man to be able to play Huntmaster of Fells again and actually be okay, especially in Historic. So we're going to try that 100%. Okay, next up, inside information. X, double black, sorcery. You get to exile the top card of the target opponent's library. You may play those cards this turn, but if you do, you pay life equal to their mana value rather than pay the mana. So it's kind of like a Villainous Wealth. You still have to dump a lot of mana into it, but black has like Cabal Stronghold and Nykthos and stuff. And if you're in like a Devotion Shell like that, you probably have access to, what's that card? Consuming Corruption, which deals X damage to a creature and you gain X life for X's number of swamps. You have Grey Merchant of Asphodel. You can play like Unholy Annex plus like Demons or whatever to gain some life steadily, that kind of thing. So I think there's some potential here. Even if you just do it for 1 and you hit a land or something, like at least you still get something out of it. It is kind of cute with Steaming Symmetry if your opponent doesn't know you're on it, where you can like Symmetry and then the following your turn immediately inside information and steal the card they put on top. So obviously you need a lot of life if you want to get a lot of value out of it, but in the right shell, maybe like a Golgari Rock or something along those lines, you can make good use of that. Probably Mono Black Devotion is where we're going to put it, but it's just a fun card in general. And it kind of plays pretty well too with like Triumphant Getaway and that like Grixis Heist deck that was like a flash in the pan for a second in Historic and then kind of fell to the wayside for like Timmy's and Johnny's, just jamming random stuff on the ladder. But it does let you play your opponent's cards, so you can get extra value out of Heist cards too. The Sackville Bagginses is a 2-mana 2/2 legendary creature. When it enters, you may sack another creature or artifact. If you do, you get to draw and make a treasure token. And then whenever you sack a token, target opponent loses 1 life. This kind of is decent with like the rectangle shell we talked about at the beginning with like Lonus, Academy Manufacturer, that kind of thing. But I also could see something happening with the cards on screen. Worn Soul Trader, pay 1, sack another creature, you create a treasure. So like, obviously in a sack deck, like you make a treasure, every time you crack the treasure, your opponent's gonna lose 1 life. You can play Marionette Master, that kind of thing, to start losing double. So I feel like maybe in like a Chthonian Nightmare, Jet Medallion kind of thing, it's pretty good. And then Samwise Gamgee's just kind of interesting because you can like go turn 1 Gilded Goose, turn 2 Bagginses, trade out the food for a treasure token, so you don't actually go down on mana and you get to draw a card. And then you also have a 2-mana 2/2 that drains even more every time you crack the food token, and you loop the cat with Samwise Gamgee. So it kind of speeds up your clock. I don't think it would be like a 4 of, but it's also a legendary creature that you can get back with Samwise. But it is an interesting, maybe as like a 2 or 3 of, just to help speed up your clock and give you a little more card draw in that style shell too. Of course, there's like Yawgmoth and stuff too. I don't know if they have the slots for this kind of shell or this kind of effect, and I think Sephiroth's probably just better there, but still has some potential in those two. Supper for Spiders, 2-mana instant. Put onto the battlefield under your control all creature cards in your opponent's graveyards that were put there from the battlefield this turn, and they are food artifact tokens. So you basically just did a buyback all your opponent's stuff for their ETB effects. They can't attack or anything, they just become food artifacts. However, this is kind of really sweet with Culling Ritual against like these smaller decks. This is the only sort of thought I had for it. Like, I don't know, say you're playing against, you know, Auras or something, and they play like Esper Sentinel into whatever, you make it to Calling Ritual mana, you play that, blow up 3 things, 4 things, play Supper for Spiders, you get to bring all of their stuff back to your field, creature-wise, and then you can start cracking them to gain more life. It's also real good with, what's it called? What's the big 4/3 cat? Yidra? Maybe? I don't remember what it's called. But there's a cat that you can sacrifice food to do stuff. All creatures are food, so it kind of combos in that sense as well. And I think that has some potential. I haven't really seen that deck in a while. I think Samwise is probably just better, but I know I mispronounced the name, but you guys know what I'm talking about. It's a big cat that turns things into food. So kind of cool there. Don't really know what else you'd want to do that. Plus, it also kind of depends on your opponent having decent creatures to play with. But still pretty sweet nonetheless. Dwarven Mauler. Nice little uncommon. 1-mana 2/1. Equip abilities you cast that target this creature, or activate that target this creature costs 2 less to activate. So a nice sort of side grade in a sense to Fervent Champion. It's less of a cost reduction, but you get a 2/1. You don't have haste, but it is a warrior, which is kind of cool, but it's more just copies 5 through 8. Like I said, we mentioned Leyline Axe, so you could go like turn 1 this plus Axe, turn 2 equip, play another 1-mana artifact equip, and start swinging real hard. Same with Fervent Champion, equips for free. But we have like Umezawa's Jitte now, we have Swords of Fire and Ice, we have, you know, Nettlecyst, Stoneforge Mystic, Hammer, if you wanted to go into another version of Red-White Hammer that could maybe take use of things outside of Hammer itself and start playing some other tutorial targets with Stoneforge. I don't know, it's just a good card to have. An effect that we don't see very often this cheap, especially on an aggressive body. So we'll definitely play, you know, 8 champion equipment at some point featuring these cards. Getaway Barrel, 4-mana artifact. When it's put into the graveyard from the battlefield, you look at the top 13 cards of your deck. You get a random creature card onto the battlefield. You put the rest on the bottom of your library in any random order. Not sold on this, but it's funny. The fact that it's random makes it tough, but it is reusable. And we have some decent targets for it in terms of creatures. I mean, if we're sticking to an artifact shell, we get to play Trash for Treasure plus Goblin Engineer. Obviously, Goblin Engineer doesn't bounce this back, but it can tutor for it. You can play Gamble, Faithless Looting, plus the artifact lands as easy targets for Trash for Treasure, Citadel, and stuff. But if you stick to artifacts, then you can also play like Darksteel Colossus, Wormcoil Engine, Platinum Angel, that sort of thing in Historic. Or you can just flip the bill and just play Emrakul or Ulamog and just hope you hit that off the top too. 4 mana is pretty cheap. Yes, you have to have a way to sacrifice it, but I don't think that's too hard at the moment. You could even play like Shrapnel Blast or something, or literally anything that just Deadly Dispute, sacrifice an artifact, that kind of thing. I think the main thing that's holding it back is just that it's random. But, I mean, top 13, you dig pretty deep, and if you're playing enough targets, even if you're not going for the full artifact theme and you're playing just like 4 Ulamog, 4 Emrakul, and you just try to hit one of those on like turn 3 or 4 with Trash for Treasure off the top, I think you can do some big things. But these cards also let you go into a sort of grindy stuff. You can play Karn and whatever, Phyrexian Portal and all that jazz. So we've did decent with a Trash for Treasure deck not too long ago, but it felt like it was just lacking a little bit of oomph to it. And I think Getaway Barrel might be able to close that gap, but obviously testing will be needed, and that's what we're going to be doing with it. Last Light of Durin's Day, 2-mana enchantment, has mountain cycling for 2, and then whenever a mountain control enters, put a quest counter on it. If it has 6 or more counters, you sack it. If you do, you get to search your hand or library for a dragon put on the battlefield. I have a dream of playing Skredless Red in Historic, which we have tried and tried again with Magus the Moon, Koth, Chandra, Torch of Defiance, Mind Stones. We have the Talismans now. There's all sorts of cool stuff. If we just stick to like a big top end, you do get to play Bahamut, you get to play Herodast, you get to play Glorybringer, that kind of stuff, as some pretty decent tutor targets. However, you can also lean a little bit more and play like Skredless Red dragons with like the Orb of Dragonkind, Cavern of Souls, Glorybringer, Stormbreath Dragon. There's the Imp that makes dragons cost less in your hand. So maybe there's some weird dragon mid-range shell somewhere in there. You even get the Tarkir card that when it enters, it deals damage to something equal to the number of cards you reveal or dragons you control, which I can't think of the name of. I think that's Invasion of Tarkir. Yeah. Invasion of Tarkir. 2 mana. Enters battlefield, reveal any number of dragon cards in your hand. When you do, it deals X plus 2 to any target. So that's kind of cool, and it flips into a decent dragon, so maybe someone tell me if I'm onto something. I don't care if you tell me I'm onto something. I'm going to play it anyways, but in my brain, I think we can do it. Plus, like, Koth will constantly get you more mountains and stuff like that, too. So it's a little slow, but it kind of guarantees a dragon at some point, and if you don't need it, you just go to another mountain, so it helps kind of smooth your mana, too. Okay, onto some green cards here. Notary Hobbits is a 5-mana 1/1 legendary halfling advisor. When it enters, if it's not a token, you get 2 tokens of it that aren't legendary, and then you add a colorless for each halfling you control. So just 1 Notary Hobbits makes 2 copies of itself, which means there's 3 halflings on the battlefield, which means you tap for 9 mana total. If you blink it, then you have 5 copies, and they tap for 25 colorless mana total. If you play Delighted Halfling, which helps ramp into it, it taps for, all of them will tap for 16 mana right away. If you play Badgermole Cub, they all tap for an additional green. If you play Leyline of Abundance, they all tap for an additional green. So I know big cards, flashy stuff like this, doesn't get a lot of play just because they're usually expensive. But 5 mana for a 5 mana investment for a potential 9 mana jump just by itself is pretty strong. If you have Badgermole plus Leyline, it's even better. Obviously, you could just like cast Emrakul's, you could just Banefire someone, you could Kozilek command someone, but I kind of want to just play Genesis Wave and just dump my whole deck onto the field the following turn, which includes Emrakul's and all stuff like that. So we're probably going to give that a shot. That seems rather straightforward. But it's really nice that Delighted Halfling plays so well into this too. Legendary Creature Eyes, which means it can't be countered, and Halfling counts for the additional cost there too. So super sick. Excited to play with that card a lot. I think there's some sweet ramp strategy there, but I think everyone is going to be trying that too. Bulge Company is a 2-mana 2/2 Goblin Soldier. Has haste as long as you control another Goblin, and then you can sack another Goblin to make a black and a red. Obviously, you have to tap it, which hurts it quite a bit, but that does give us another mana producer outside of Skirk Prospector, which seems pretty dang good. I have ran into some more like mid-rangey Rakdos shells before playing Goblins with cards I can't even think of, but there's one that like whenever a Goblin dies, you get to drain someone for 1. They played Mud Button Curse Tosser, which lets you blow something up. It's also a 2/1 body, which is kind of aggressive. This also just like turn 1 Prospector, turn 2 Bulge Company, turn 3 any Goblin Instigator or something, lets you Muxus the following turn, which is pretty quick and it sort of fits into Goblins, but also lets you splash black for some better sideboard cards. Not sure if there's another deck that would want to take advantage of that. Like, there's like the Cabaret Rebel shell, but I think that's going to be too hard to splash black for, and I don't think Company really does anything for it. But something Rakdos Goblins dot deck could be pretty strong. Muxus is still like a decent card. We have Cavern of Souls to help protect it. We can ramp it out super fast, and it can end games by itself, but I think a lot of the removal and stuff and the explosiveness is sort of lacking nowadays when the rest of the format card quality has gone up and they have ways to deal with it. But if you can speed up how fast you can cast Muxus off of Company plus Prospector, I think it could get back into the game a little bit and have some potential to win some games. So we'll try Rakdos Goblins is what I'm telling you. But this is a neat little card. Key to the Side Door, another uncommon I'm interested in. 1 mana artifact. Target creature can't be blocked this turn for 2. And then 1 mana, you can discard a legendary card with the same name as a legendary permanent you control to draw 2 cards. Stupid thing you can do is play Sid, Timeless Artificer. Artifact creatures and heroes get +1/+1 for each Artificer you control and each Artificer card in your graveyard. And a deck could have any number of cards named Sid. So you could just play a bunch of these, play 1, and then every other Sid you play will just be 1 mana, draw 2 cards. But I think the real, like, logical way to play this is with, like, Urza, Emry, that sort of thing, right? You can make, even with, like, Synthesizer, right? You just make a giant construct, tap this to give unblockable. If you draw an Urza later on, you can discard it and draw 2 cards. Play it with like the old Karns from Dominaria instead of Great Creator. You can like make constructs that way. But the fact that it helps your creatures connect, but also turns your potentially useless extra draws, Emry, Urza, Tamiyo, whatever else you might play in that sort of artifact shell into just a lot of card draw seems perfect. And one day, I hope they give us Urza's Saga. This is Saga tutorable. We have Trinket Mage and stuff, and Emry can obviously buy it back for cheap, but this is a sick Urza's Saga tutor, which hopefully, one day we'll be able to play it. Elven Passage, almost done here. This is just a 1 mana, sack it, search for a basic land, put it on battlefield, tap, then shuffle. If you behold an elf, you get to untap that land. Nothing special. There are some landfall elves in this set, but pretty good with Deathrite Shaman. Obviously, Historic doesn't have fetches, so we're kind of limited Prismatic Vista, but this gives us 8 fetches that work with Deathrite Shaman on turn 1 and allows us to play it untapped and then immediately ramp with it. And we played some Deathrite Shaman not too long ago, and this card's actually still quite the house. The problem is we just don't have fetches. I don't know if 8 is going to be enough. I think it might be. But the other problem is you have to kind of delve into a little bit more elf-based, I think, to get maximum potential, an elf-based shell. But we do have stuff like Formidable Speaker, Green Sun Zenith, so you might be able to play some like weird green-black rock shell that kind of leans a little bit heavier into like tutors, White of the Reliquary, and that sort of stuff. And then you can, having access to 8 fetches for Shaman plus your other ramp or other sort of landfall stuff might be decent. I've seen people talk about this in Pioneer too. Not sold that it's going to make Shaman consistent enough, but it's a very good start, and it has potential in my book. Lastly, the Lonely Mountain. This is just a mountain, which means it's tutorable off of like a land cycler like Oliphant. Enters tapped unless you control an equipment, and then you can pay 5 and you get a 2/2 red dwarf. Costs 1 less to cast for each equipment you control. We talked earlier about that Fervent Champion deck with the new dwarf that is a 2/1, makes your equipment equip cost 2 less. I feel like this deck slots right in. If you have 4 equipment on the field, it's just 1 mana, make a 2/2 every turn, which seems pretty strong. And the fact that it's tutorable is quite good too. Counts as a mountain for certain things. So I like this card a lot. There's no real home for it quite yet, but if we dive into things like that, it might be playable, even in just like a Stoneforge shell. Having 1 or 2 of, I think it's pretty easy to have enter untapped, and then just generate a lot of value in the late game too. But that is it. So yeah, not as many cards as usual. This, like I said, is a smaller set at the beginning, but still some very interesting designs and a lot of small sort of niche cards this time around. I think with Marvel Superheroes we were excited because we had such like interesting designs that like fill in slots. Like obviously there's some powerful stuff like Loki that's making some big waves and whatnot, but I think this set is a little lower power level in general, but it's given some much needed support to things that haven't gotten support in a while. Sacrifice, goblins, it takes elves in a different strategy. I don't know if there's that many playable elves, but it's there if we need it. Dwarves is kind of cool. We didn't even talk about like Magda, which has some dwarf synergies and things like that too. So just a lot of sort of small game potential that will hopefully kind of just soup up some decks in little ways that just overall make them better in the format as a whole. Just like little tweaks, little balances, little upgrades here or there that can help out the decks. Especially, I think equipment stuff that we got this time around is going to be strong. The new red 1-drop and the new like Pure Steel Paladin at home, Ricky or whatever it is, should make Hammer Time pretty strong too. So that's my 2 cents on the shell. I appreciate whoever stuck around and is continue watching all the way to the end. Next week, which is the first week of August, we will be just brewing stuff after the pre-update comes out and we get access to cards in the deck builder. We're just going to spend the whole week sort of messing with new designs. Those will also be posted on my Moxfield and Twitter, which you can find below in the description. And you can come hang out, talk ideas, theory craft with me, and once the set releases, we're just going to be jamming some Hobbit cards. So we'll have some fun. But thank you as always for watching, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye!